His heart began to pound ba-dump, ba-dump. He took a deep breath and tried to calm down. He needed to stay cool. Then he thought back to the time he stood at the top of the stairs in the Hapjeong Station dungeon, staring down at the terrifying blue venom-fanged Kasaka. This spider didn't scare him as much as that monster had. That meant he could totally handle it. Jin-Woo wouldn't have stuck around if he thought beating the boss was a lost cause. Kark! He was now close enough to the giant spider to see his own face staring back at him in its shiny eyes. Jin-Woo scrunched up his face studying the spider. Its skin looked super tough. He wondered if his dagger would be able to do any real damage. The problem was, his knife wasn't as long as his steel sword, which made it harder to attack from a safe distance. Jin-Woo knew he had to concentrate his power if he wanted to make a deep cut. He adjusted his grip on the dagger, pointing the blade downwards. This way, he thought, he could deal more damage. Crook! The spider finally stopped right in front of him. Then it lifted two of its legs and bent them into an L shape. What was it doing? Jin-Woo didn't waste any time wondering. Jin-Woo's eyes snapped open with a start. Suddenly he was face to face with a massive spider. If he hadn't twisted his body fast, the spider's legs would have smashed right into his chest. The spider lifted its legs and Jin-Woo saw where they had pounded the ground behind him. The sound of rocky debris falling from the spider's legs filled the air. Proc. Jin-Woo glanced over his shoulder to check the damage. The stone floor was now pockmarked with holes. He gulped, realizing that if those powerful legs hit him, it would be more than just a painful blow. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed, his mind racing with what to do next. It was time to focus. Something big was happening and fast. The spider's legs were moving at lightning speed. But somehow he could see every single movement. First the left leg shot out, and he ducked just in time to avoid it. Then, the right leg swung his way, and he twisted his body to get out of the way. He quickly took a step forward. The spider wasn't giving up. Its right leg came at him again, aiming straight for his head. He dodged to the side, and took 2 big steps forward, but the spider kept coming, its left leg shooting out next. The spider's legs moved in a crazy pattern. Right, left, right, left. Then it started pounding the ground with a super loud boom. The sound was so loud that it hurt your ears. Jin-Woo dodged each attack, and slowly got closer to the spider. Jin-Yo watched in amazement. Is he even human? He wondered. The spider's attacks were really scary, even from far away. They made the hair on the back of Jin-Yo's neck stand up. Jin-Woo dodged every attack with ease, getting closer and closer to the magic beast. His calm face and smooth moves sent shivers down Jin-Yo's spine. Is this guy really an E-rank hunter? Jin-Yo thought to himself. No way, it couldn't be. If Jin-Yo were in Jin-Woo's shoes, he'd be a mess by now. He wouldn't have been able to avoid the beast's attacks even once or twice. But Jin-Woo made it look effortless. It just didn't seem fair an E-rank hunter was doing something that Jin-Yo, a D-rank hunter, couldn't do. There's only one way to explain this. He's a false ranker. Jin-Yo's face turned dark with concern. Some super talented hunters have amazing control over their magic. They can even make themselves seem weaker if they want to. These hunters are called false rankers because they hide their true power to get a lower rank. But here's the thing. Most false rankers are up to no good. Some of them are even serial killers who prey on weaker hunters in low-level dungeons. Dungeons are the perfect place for hunters to commit crimes because only hunters can enter them. Jin-Yo gulped, feeling a surge of fear. Jin-Yo's fear suddenly shifted. He was now more scared of Jin-Woo than the giant spider. What was he thinking, wanting to do this? He felt a lump form in his throat, and his eyes began to well up with tears. Just then the spider charged again. Shesh, shesh, shesh. But Jin-Yo was too caught up in his own thoughts to notice. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo dodged the spider's attacks with ease. He seemed super confident that he was going to win this battle. Jin-Woo's eyes locked onto the spider's head. Now close enough to touch, he had easily closed in on the spider, because it moved in a simple pattern. His plan was to aim for its eyes. First targeting the weak spot was a basic rule of battle. If he could just stab one of those beady eyes with his dagger, that would be a great start. Jin-Woo was about to make his move when he noticed something strange. The spider's attack seemed to be slowing down. At first he thought he was just getting used to its lightning-fast moves, but then he heard the sound of its legs moving. Shock? Shock? Followed by loud boom. Boom? That wasn't it. Something was really off. Jin-Woo's ears were super sharp, and he trusted them more than his eyes. He could hear the spider's ear-piercing blasts getting farther apart, which meant it was slowing down. This made Jin-Woo feel like something was off. He took a closer look and saw the muscles near the spider's mouth twitching. The spider was starting to move its mouth, and Jin-Woo wondered what was going on. He was ready to jump up 3 meters to get a better look at the spider's head, but he stopped himself just in time. Something was making him hesitate. Jin-Woo made a quick change of plans and dove to the side. Just in time, too. A weird murky liquid shot out of the spider's mouth with a loud schwa-de-lodge. Jin-Woo tumbled to the ground, but he was back on his feet in an instant. He looked back at where he'd just been standing, and his eyes widened. The spot was charred black and smoking. The stones on the ground were melting with a creepy frashash sound. Jin-Woo gulped, feeling lucky to be alive. If he had jumped straight up instead of sideways, things could have been much worse. He didn't want to think about what would have happened if he'd gotten hit by that weird liquid. The spider charged at Jin-Woo, sensing that he was getting nervous. Its legs moved fast, making a schwa-shaf sound as it came closer. Jin-Woo looked up, ready to face whatever was coming his way. Right in front of him, a spider suddenly appeared. Jin-Woo jumped out of the way, just in time as the spider's legs snapped wildly. The spider wasn't giving up, it kept coming at him with a loud boom. Jin-Woo tried to get close to the spider again, but he had to pull back fast. The spider could shoot out stomach acid that would dissolve him in an instant. Now the spider had 2 ways to attack, its sharp legs and its gross digestive acid. If Jin-Woo got too close to avoid the legs, the acid would spray out and get him. This was getting tougher by the second. Jin-Woo was in a tough spot. If he backed off, the spider would attack him with its legs. Damn it. He muttered in frustration. He tried to fight back by stabbing the spider's leg with his dagger, but it was like trying to cut through steel. No matter how hard he stabbed, he couldn't even make a scratch. The spider's hide was just too thick. Jin-Woo bit his lip, feeling anxious. This wasn't going well. The spider was using only 2 of its legs to swipe at him, but Jin-Woo was dodging and weaving all over the place to avoid getting hit. It was clear who would get exhausted first. The guy's fatigue level was already at 57, and it was rising fast. If it hit 70, he'd start to slow down, and if it reached 90, he'd be totally out of breath and unable to move right. Time was running out, he thought to himself. If I can just get closer to it faster. His speed was crucial now. Jin-Woo was in big trouble. Boom, boom. A giant spider was attacking him, and he had to move fast to avoid its legs. As he dodged and weaved, a thought suddenly hit him. Speed was his problem, but then he remembered something cool. He had a special skill that could help him. It was called dash, and he hadn't used it in a while because he didn't need it. But now was the perfect time. Jin-Woo focused his energy and activated the skill. Dash, he shouted. Suddenly he felt a surge of speed. A message flashed in his mind. Skill dash has been activated. Your speed has increased by 30%. Jin-Woo's body suddenly surged with speed, like it was fueled by rocket boosters. A message had just flashed, warning him that his mana would drop by 1 every minute while he was in action. But Jin-Woo didn't let that slow him down. He zoomed around the spider's legs with ease, dodging and weaving with incredible agility. The sound of the spider's attacks filled the air. Shock! 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 Boom! 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 Jin-Woo danced between the lightning-fast legs and quickly closed in on his target, the spider's face. The spider was in a panic and spit out some digestive acid. Schwaza! But Jin-Woo didn't need to hurry this time, because he had a speed boost. He easily dodged the acid blast and jumped up to the spider's head. Chugong! His dagger flashed as it sliced at the spider's eyes diagonally. A message popped up. Paralysis had been activated, but it didn't work because the spider was too resistant. Then another message appeared. Drain had been activated, which meant the spider would lose 1% of its health every second. Nice. Jin-Woo said, happy that his attack had worked. The spider let out a loud screech, cray-bay, HH, and stumbled around. Jin-Woo saw his chance and wasn't going to waste it. As soon as Jin-Woo's feet touched the ground, he sprang back up, using the spider's body like a ladder to climb to its head. The beast wildly waved its legs, trying to kick him off, but Jin-Woo dodged every attack with ease. Boom, boom, boom. The spider's legs pounded the ground, creating huge holes, but Jin-Woo was safe. He reached the top of the spider's head and started stabbing its many eyes.
Shug, 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 shug.
The spider let out a deafening screech. Kree, Bulab, hhh. But Jin-Woo didn't stop. He kept stabbing, and the spider shrieked again. Kree, hh. The spider flailed about, trying to shake Jin-Woo off. But he held tight. Just when it seemed like the spider was going to keep fighting forever, it started to weaken. Kree. The spider's cries grew fainter, and its movements slower. Jin-Woo kept his grip, and continued to attack, determined to defeat the beast. Jin-Woo's attacks were paying off big time. His hands moved faster and faster, striking the giant spider again and again. Finally, the creature's massive body started to collapse on one side, hitting the ground with a loud ta-2u dud. Jin-Woo didn't stop until he was sure the spider was dead. As it took its last breath, the sound of screeching and scratching filled the air. Shinwoo check, Shinwoo check, Shinwoo check, Shinwoo. Messages started pouring in. You have defeated the master of the dungeon. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. Jin-Woo Drek-sun was overjoyed. He threw his bloody arms up in the air and shouted. Yes. His level had just jumped up 3 times. Probably because he had beaten a boss. Jin-Woo checked his stats to see how much he had improved. Name, Jin-Woo Sung Job, None HP 2600 Fatigue. 0 level, 21 title, Wolf Assassin NP. 390. His strength was now at 53, and his agility was at 38. He also had a bunch of other stats like stamina, intelligence and perception. Under his stats, Jin-Woo saw his skills. He had a few cool abilities, including a passive skill that he didn't know much about, a willpower skill at level 1, and a dash skill at level 1. The best part, he had just jumped from level 19 to level 21 in one amazing fight. But that wasn't all, and something else was about to happen. Another message popped up. Ping. It said he had passed level 20 and could now use the shop's buy function. Yes, he could finally spend his gold. But there was no time to check out the shop right now. The cave started shaking and a loud rumble filled the air. A new message appeared. The master of the dungeon has been defeated. The gate will close in 1 hour. The countdown had begun. 59 minutes and 59 seconds left. They had to get out of there before the gate closed. Jin-Woo was just about to climb back down when he spotted something cool. There was something shiny right in the middle of the spider's head. It looked like an item, but that was weird. He hadn't gotten any message about picking it up. And when he reached out his hand, nothing happened. He couldn't just grab it, like he usually could. Jin-Woo's eyes widened as he wondered what it could be. But he didn't have to think for long. He quickly realized that the spider had something valuable inside it. It was an essence stone. Jin-Woo couldn't resist grabbing what belonged to him, no matter how much of a hurry he was in. He carefully pulled out the essence stone hidden deep within the spider's head. This little stone was super valuable, at least 10 million won, and that's because it was a rare C-rank essence stone. Jin-Woo had just scored an amazing win, and the trophy was pretty cool too. He jumped down from the boss's head, landing with a soft thud. As he turned around, he noticed something weird. Lots of shiny things sparkling inside the spider's stomach. Jin-Woo was confused. He had heard that some magic beasts could have 2 or 3 special stones, but there were way too many for that to be it. What were all those glimmering things? Curious, Jin-Woo cut open the spider's stomach with his dagger and pulled out its intestines. As he did, the bodies of half-eaten insects tumbled out. The lights were coming from these bugs. No way, Jin-Woo exclaimed. He started searching through the bugs one by one, and what he found was amazing. Each bug had an essence stone inside it. Some of the stones were small because the spider had been eating away at them, but most looked perfect. There were over 10 stones in total. This is insane, Jin-Woo thought to himself. He had come to this place just to make enough money to pay 1 month's rent, but now he had enough to cover a whole year. Just then he heard a voice behind him. Boss. It was Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo carefully placed all of Jin-Woo's special essence stones in his bag. Then he pulled out a thermos and filled the cap with a drink.
Hey, boss, are you thirsty? Want to take a sip of this?
He asked, offering Jin-Woo the cap. The water was super cold, and it even made the outside of the cap get all foggy. Jin-Woo was surprised by Jin-Woo's kindness, but he took the cap anyway because he was really parched. He gulped down the water, feeling it cool his dry throat.
How's it taste?
Boss? Jin-Woo asked with a smile. Jin-Woo noticed that Jin-Woo had started calling him boss too. It's really refreshing, Jin-Woo said, handing the cap back to Jinyo. Jin-Woo started to say something but Jinyo cut him off. Don't worry, I've got your back, he said. I'll keep this secret forever, even if it kills me. Jin-Woo chuckled and said, you don't have to be that dramatic. But Jinyo was serious. No, I mean it, he said. I promise you, boss. This stays between us. Jin-Woo shrugged and said, okay, if you're sure. Jinyo just smiled and said, don't worry about it, boss. And it's not like anyone would believe that a low-ranking hunter like Jin-Woo could take down a tough C-rank boss. Anyway. It was a relief that Jinho was going to keep Jin-Woo's secret. At first Jin-Woo thought Jinho didn't catch on. But he actually picked up on it fast. Is there anything else you want to say, boss? Jin-Woo asked. There was an awkward silence before Jinho replied. No. This felt weird to Jin-Woo. He thought it was strange that Jinho was being so polite all of a sudden. But then he had an idea since Jin-Woo had saved Jinho's life. It made sense that Jinho would be extra nice to him. That must be why Jinho was acting this way. He got why Jinho felt that way, but he wasn't totally right. Suddenly the ground started shaking and rumbling again.
The
dungeon trembled, then stopped. These shakes were a warning sign that the gate was about to close. It would keep getting worse and worse until it felt like a huge earthquake. When the door was almost shut, let's go. Jin-Woo got moving, heading towards the entrance. Yes, sir, he replied, following orders. Suddenly, a light flashed nearby, and piles of stones came crashing down. Dong-suk and his team rushed in, their eyes wide with shock. Behind Jin-Woo lay the lifeless body of a massive spider. The team couldn't believe it. No way. It's really dead. Someone asked. Did those two actually take it down? Another person wondered. Some of them were confused. The spider was huge, but maybe it wasn't as tough as it looked. I mean, how did an E-ranker and a D-ranker manage to kill it? Someone asked. As they stood there, unsure of what to do next, one of them turned to Dong-suk and said, Bro, what's the plan now? Dong-suk scratched his chin, looking at Jin-Woo and Jinho with a thoughtful expression. Time was running out. The big gate was about to close because the boss had been defeated. There wasn't enough time to dig up the special mana stones on the wall now. They still needed to get their gear in order, but the clock was ticking less than an hour to go. It was clear they needed a new plan, fast. Dong-suk yelled out to his friend, Jinyo you. Jinyo jumped back, startled, and took a step away from Dong-suk. Dong-suk's smirk said it all. He was enjoying the moment. The guy's face turned pale, and you could tell he was super nervous. We did some digging on you, Dong-suk said with a grin. Your gear looks awesome, and we found out your dad is kind of a big deal, Myung-han Yu, the boss of Yojin Construction, right? The guy stuttered. So, what's that gotta do with anything? Dong-suk leaned in, his voice low and serious. Here's the thing, we want to talk to your dad about something. But if people find out what went down here, we're all in trouble, so you've got a choice. You can either work with us, or, well, let's just say it won't be good for you. The guy's eyes widened in shock. You want me to be your accomplice? Dong-suk nodded at Jin-Woo, his chin jutting out in his direction. Jin-Woo's eyes met Dong-suk's, and for a second, his brow twitched in discomfort. Then Dong-suk dropped a bombshell. Kill Jin-Woo Sung. Jinyo's jaw dropped in shock. What? He asked, clearly horrified, but Dong-suk just burst out laughing, like Jinyo's shocked face was the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen. What Jinyo didn't know was that Dong-suk had originally planned to take out both him and Jin-Woo. However, while waiting outside, Dong-suk had done some sneaky research on his phone. He discovered that Jinyo's dad owned a big construction company in the country, which totally changed his plans. A crazy idea popped into his head. What if they filmed him killing Jin-Woo Sung and used it to blackmail Myung-han Yu? This guy, Myung-han Yu, was super rich. We're talking over 10 trillion won. If they played it smart, they could make way more money than the mana stones were worth. The threat was clear. You have one chance to get out of here alive. Kill Jin-Woo Sung with your own hands, and we'll let you go. Dong-suk's eyes turned super mean. What's taking so long? He sneered. Whatever happens in this dungeon, stays in this dungeon. Are you really scared of some weaker E-rank guy? You're a D-rank. After all. Jinho glanced over at Jin-Woo, who just shrugged. That was like saying, it's up to you, do what you want. Jinho pulled out his sword, looking totally determined. It seemed he had finally made up his mind. Dong-suk started smiling, clearly happy with Jinhyo's decision. Jinhyo's decision caught everyone off guard. He stood next to Jin-Woo, his sword at the ready. Dong-suk was shocked. He thinks he can team up with him and take us down. He whispered to himself. Dong-suk couldn't believe Jinhyo's nerve, just because he had gotten lucky and beaten one tough boss. He thought he was invincible. Jinho Wan leaned in and asked Dong-suk, "What's our next move?" Dong-suk lowered his voice to a whisper, making sure Jin-Woo and Jinhyo couldn't hear him. "Take out Jin-Woo's sung first," someone said. "We need to keep control of the ATM. We've already lost too much today." A voice replied, "Got it." Then, a bright light started building up in Jeonwon's hand. Jin-Woo squinted, ready for a fight. This was new territory for him. He had never faced another hunter before. But one thing was certain, if someone threatened his life, he wouldn't go easy on them. Ping! The familiar notification bell sounded. And Jin-Woo's eyes snapped up. A message flashed on the screen. An urgent quest has arrived. Jin-Woo's curiosity was piqued. What could be so important? Before he could even ask to see the details, the quest screen popped up on its own. This had never happened before. In bold letters, the screen read, "Urgent quest. Defeat the enemies." A warning followed. "There are people here who want to kill you. Take them down and get to safety fast. You're in big trouble if you don't finish this quest. And that means a penalty is coming your way. You need to defeat 8 enemies, but so far, you've defeated 0. Jin-Woo's eyes went wide with surprise. Was his goal really to take down Dong-suk's entire crew? Just then, a blinding flash of light appeared out of nowhere. Jin-Won had shot an arrow of light right at Jin-Woo. The blast sent Jin-Woo flying into the wall with a loud blam. The force was so strong that part of the cavern came crashing down on top of him. Wham! The sound of rocks falling was like Kram. Jin-Woo rushed to his boss's side, shouting "Boss!" But Dong-suk stopped him cold. "Jin-Woo, you!" he called out. Jin-Woo froze, startled. Dong-suk told him, "Don't worry about Jin-Woo, he's already dead. Just get over here." He motioned for Jin-Woo to come with a flick of his finger. Jin-Woo looked back at Jin-Woo, unsure of what to do. Jin-Woo was trapped under a pile of rubble. Just like Dong-suk had said, he wasn't moving at all. Suddenly Jinhyo shouted, "Why you murderers!" Tears filled his eyes as he yelled at Dong-suk and his team. But instead of getting angry, they just laughed. They thought it was funny because it was true. They had killed many people in dungeons. Jinhyo was furious with them, but Jin-Woo was shocked by what he saw from under the rubble. He couldn't believe his eyes. He peeked through the cracks in the broken rock, and saw a message changing before his eyes. It was an urgent quest. Defeat the enemies. The message was clear. There were people nearby who wanted to harm him. His mission was to defeat all of them to stay safe. If he didn't complete this quest, something bad would happen. He had a tough job ahead, 8 enemies to take down, and so far he hadn't defeated any. Suddenly, some of the words on the screen glitched out, but then they quickly fixed themselves. The message was still there, staring at him. Urgent quest. Defeat the enemies. It warned him again. People were coming for him, and he needed to be ready. This time it called him by his title, the player.